Hello, and welcome to the Pain Points Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and today we are joined by Dawn Sipley of Sipley the Best. Dawn, thanks for joining us on the Pain Points Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Christian.
Yeah. So, Dawn, let's talk a little bit about your history. You are, I'll just let you go ahead and explain it, what you do. I know you're in human resources and recruitment, but what's your specific job title and what you do?
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, I started my own HR consulting firm specializing in recruitment training for companies. I've been in HR about 20 years. 12 of those were specifically spent in the staffing industry, where I had ownership of two different staffing companies during that
Okay.
time. And what I really found was, one, I had a heart for small business owners, which, drove my business partner crazy because he wanted me to go after big industry, enterprise business.
Right.
And two, small business owners couldn't afford staffing services. They couldn't afford an HR director. They didn't have the time to study HR the way that they really needed to. And
Right.
I always enjoyed educating them on how to do it better, which people thought I was crazy for doing it because they're like, well, won't they not need you anymore? And I'm like, well, I mean, if they're better off for that, then so be it. So that's kind of how Sipley the Best was born. So we are a recruitment training HR consulting company that can work fractionally for small business owners, assisting them with all their HR needs. Then on the other side of
Wow.
the coin, I love working with job seekers. It's just God has placed this empathy in my heart for the job seeking process. It is brutal. I've been on the other side of the table. I had a period of time where employment was a real challenge for my husband and I back in the recession. And I
Right.
very strongly remember what that looks like. And just having done thousands of interviews and
Mhm.
negotiated millions of dollars of salary over the last 20 years, I see a lot of ways people can do it so much better and get more money, be more satisfied with the job that they've selected. So we kind of work both sides of the fence. So it's really fun for me. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a definite interesting path, and it just like you said, it exemplifies your passion, your heart, and being able to play both sides of those.
Yeah,
It gives you balance, right?
it does.
To where you can empathize with the business owners and also with the employees, which puts you in a unique position that you're much more able to find better matches for
Exactly.
for people.
Exactly. Keeps you
Awesome.
really up to date on trends and things like that too, because you're constantly talking to the other side. So you
Right.
don't need to Google the answers. You feel it in the everyday market, So
Right.
it's
Right.
fun.
Nice. Nice. So, what areas do you service?
Our typical client is going to be a client that has less than 50 employees.
Hmm.
They really have enough people that they've got problems, but they don't have enough profit to be able to afford that high level HR director like person. But even with 15, 20, 30 employees, you're really starting to run into some big issues. It's not a mom and pop shop anymore, and you really got to have those employee handbooks in place. You got to have those strategic hiring funnels in place. You can't wait for a hiring need to arise for your recruitment process to start. As a
Right.
responsible business owner, you should always be in some form of recruitment mode, and that's what we kind of teach.
So, can you explain a little bit the difference, in your professional opinion, between hiring and recruiting? When
Yeah.
should when should each be done? Are those words interchangeable?
To,
Kind of go down that.
Yeah, to me, they're not. Hiring is an event. That's something that you do. Recruitment is a lifestyle, is an ongoing process. So you are always looking at who are your customers, who are your vendors, who are your competitions, employees. who's in alignment with my vision on what my company wants to be with, and who do I want to rub shoulders with at the end of the day. I don't know about you, but work is hard, and
Yeah.
I want to be in the trenches with soldiers that I love and respect and would go to the hill for. So
Yeah.
those that doesn't happen in what I call the old post and pray thing. Oh, people are so hard to find, I can't find. Well, tell me about your recruitment strategy. Well, we posted the ads, no one's applying.
Yeah.
It's posting and praying. That's
Yeah.
not active recruitment. That's not headhunting. That's not really optimizing and knowing what your messaging is as an employer. Because employees now more than ever are researching their employers before they even say yes to a job interview. So you have to be putting stuff out there and stand apart from your competition and have a real reason why they should choose you over, your competition that might be bigger, better, faster, paying more, So what's your competitive advantage?
Right. So where are these employees? Where are they going to search companies, right?
Yeah, well, they're going to start with the people that they know, like, and trust, right? The best employees don't shout that their boss is a jerk from the rooftops on social media. They're talking to their pastor, they're talking to their inner circle, to their small group friends, and they're saying, something happened and I'm kind of uncomfortable and I don't know what to do. The best employees aren't loud and boisterous and abruptly quitting. They're seeking wise counsel before they go. And so what I like to be at Sipley the Best is a resource for those optimal people that are seeking that wise counsel, considering a change, but not really wanting to just fling the resume out there on the web. So just being connected to the community and sharing people that you're always looking for an introduction to a possible employee, whether you're hiring or not. I can't tell you how many times I've hired someone a year and a half after I met them. Sometimes it's just not the right season, but man, God just had so much more than that person ever imagined for their life. So always being recruiting, always being willing to have a conversation to meet an exceptional person. You'll be amazed at how your lives will end up crossing when the timing's right.
Right, for sure. So it sounds like the job seekers that you're referring to, would you consider them A players?
Oh, 100%. The ones that are thoughtful before making rash decisions are the ones that have empathy, the ones that have professionalism, because we're all going to have bad days at work, right? I mean, I love my job, and sometimes I just go, what am I doing here? And I have a passion for what I do. So on those hard days, when you've ticked off your employees, what's their reaction going to be? Is it going to be to ask for prayer and wise counsel from people that they respect and are ahead of them professionally? Or maybe they're talking to someone like me saying, hey, what do I do? And I go, well, let's talk through it. And then I go, you know what? You don't have it that bad, sweetie. Like, just sometimes it's hard. And maybe if you respond this way, it'll get a better reaction out of the situation. So those folks are the ones that you really want to attract, not the ones that have long-term employment, not the ones that are job hoppy, not the ones that always have their resume out on the job boards. You want your employees to be happy enough that they're not open to other conversations. Sometimes I talk to people and they're like, well, just something came up and I wasn't really looking, but you know what? God doesn't lead people who are sold out to open doors. Those doors are closed, and there's no amount of wooing or money that can take a person. If you're sold out for the mission, and you believe in what your leader is doing at the organization and the impact that you have through how you serve with your organization, then no one's gonna offer you more to take you away.
Right. No, that's amazing, because I think a lot of times when companies are only hiring, they are posting on the job boards, they are posting Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and all those different things. And then they're wondering either A, why nobody's looking at the post, which is an internal thing. But B, they're saying there's no good people out there because the people who are looking at those things aren't the people that you're describing right now, right?
Correct. Correct.
So,
Not the people
no,
that, job boards are a necessary evil. They are a part of the recruitment process. We certainly utilize them. But if you're going to ask me the highest and best form of recruitment, it's that word of mouth. It's the who you know, not what you know kind of thing.
right.
So you can certainly find great candidates on boards as long as you have, you should always have a solid recruitment plan and screening strategy to where you're catching them along the way. And you want to have a lot of
So,
options, right? There's power in options, not just taking
for
the
sure.
one best candidate. The best thing to do at the end of the day is lose a little bit of sleep over the two great candidates that you have to consider that could both just do the job with their eyes closed. That's the
Right.
most powerful position to be in as a business
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah, definitely having those options. So you mentioned the words recruitment plan. So
Yeah.
let's just walk through a scenario. I get a lead. I go out to the job. It turns out to be the biggest job that I've had for the year, as far as like projects go. I sell that job at 3 p.m. and then at 5 p.m. I'm on the job boards posting that I need help to finish this job or to start this job. Is
Right.
that a recruitment plan?
No, that's a
Okay.
recruitment reaction.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
can you
and
kind of
then
walk
you
through the
then
basic points of the
right.
recruitment
Well, then
plan?
you end up calling a staffing company because you waited to the 11th hour and you're going to pay,
Right.
60% markup fees based on the hourly rate for no less than 3 months. Usually the contract time could be as much as 6 months. So you're going to
Wow.
cost yourself money. You're not going to really have an established relationship with a brand new person that you're taking to the most important job of your company's existence. So that's opens up some liability because let me tell you, humans will do quirky things. I've got stories of landscapers peeing in bushes and going into wrong rooms and
Oh no.
you don't want that kind of stuff happening when they're wearing your logo on your shirt. So
No.
definitely, that growth period of time can be a dangerous time to hire because you're already hyperstimulated. You're already pushing the limits of what your company can do. So if you can hire ahead of those types of situations, and get well acclimated people on board and always be cross training, that's what recruitment plans are, is looking at where your holes of skill set are, making sure that no one person holds the key to very important things, because you will
Okay.
find those employees will hold you hostage either financially or, let me tell you, emotionally and stuff too. Like, I have seen so many business owners abused by their accountants. It's absurd. But the business
Wow.
owner just doesn't understand the numbers. They don't know what's going on, and they just take everything the accountant has to say. You as a business owner should have certain minimum criteria or second eyes on your money. Lots of
Right.
embezzling happens to small business owners. They have
Right.
someone, only one person looking at what's going in and going out. You got to have that checks and balances, because
Mhm.
embezzlement is much more common than you think, and it is the dirty secret of entrepreneurs all across our nation. They don't talk about it out in the open, but if you bring it up, at the end of the conversation, they'll come to you and say, "I didn't want to say anything, but me too." And
Yeah.
they got me for $50,000 and I had no
Right.
clue,
Yeah. That's
and then you
wild.
feel like a fool. So again, just looking at those gaps in skills and making sure no one person in the organization has a lot of power minimizes the risk to your organization and ensures the survival when and if tragedy strikes and you lose an employee unexpected. I think a lot of people don't think about the grief that takes place when there's loss of life in the
Right.
workplace, and now you have to hire their replacement. Like, how good of a decision process are you going to have right then,
Yeah.
and
Especially
how
depending on
urgently do
how
you
long
have to
they've been
hire?
with you,
Oh my
it'd be like trying to
goodness.
replace a family member, right?
Absolutely. Oh, many
Yeah.
times. So,
Yeah. So that's super tough.
right.
I was actually just in a small group 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about this, and it was actually how this problem of embezzling you were talking about, how it happens even in nonprofits, or
Oh my goodness.
in this case,
Especially
it was talking about in
churches.
churches. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how like so many of the leaders or the lead pastors, they have no clue, and how it's good to put these checks and balances in, exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
and having multiple eyes look at it. But then also, not only like this is definitely an extreme example of the importance of recruiting, of
Right.
having a depth chart and cross training, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But even, I'm thinking bringing it to painting contractors, we may outsource our accountant, and at least at the audience that we're speaking to, we're looking at more of the micro business. They have
Right.
maybe, 5 employees or
Right.
less. So that's kind of the audience that we're looking to. They're going to outsource their accountant, but how good would it be to be able to cross train, that you don't
Yeah.
have like one guy that all he does is just roll, and one guy
Right.
that all he does is just use the brush or use the sprayer, to have people at certain times to cross train. I think of it kind of like a depth chart.
Yeah.
When you have a football team, you have backups, and then for your
Mm-hmm.
key positions, you have a backup to the backup. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes, for football, you never want to put your punter out to throw the game-winning pass, so you'd have 2 extra quarterbacks or something. And it's the same thing in our business, right?
Absolutely.
We should be looking for that, and that's where the recruiting comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can liken it a lot to sports.
Yeah. It's team building, and I have plenty of clients that only want to hire people who've played sports, because they have that culture ingrained in
Right.
them, that it's more about what you do. They understand that what you do off the field affects your performance on the field. And that can be applied physically, spiritually, intellectually. You're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to stumble to the least of your training. We like to
Yeah.
think of ourselves as rising above in really hard situations, but honestly, it's not. It's the things that you practice, it's the things that it's the things that you understand and that you have language for. Because even today, kids these days, they don't have language for what they're experiencing, and they don't have the ability to sit and communicate and disagree with management or coworkers or anything, because they just send text messages all day. So these are things
Right.
that employers have to deal with and have to understand when they're building their team and creating their dynamics.
That's not something that I really thought about. I think yours and my generation was the introduction to
Yeah.
the cell phones being to the masses.
Yeah. We
But
didn't have cell
back
phones
then,
until we were young adults, right? In our
right,
20s or so.
right,
Yeah.
right, and at that point we were paying for each message. Now, now everybody's unlimited everything,
Right.
and they're sending one letter at a time. They're
Emojis,
sounding it all out.
today's
Yeah.
hieroglyphics. I
Hieroglyphics
can't.
of
We're
of
going
the
back
new
in
world.
time. Right.
It's crazy, but yeah, that's also something to definitely think about, is how you're reaching people, and how they're communicating. Right? If you want
Yeah.
to catch a shark, you're not going to go to the pool and back
Right.
with a fishing pole to try to catch a
Right.
shark. You got to go where they are. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
speaking
Can you
of that,
text to applications? If you're looking to hire young people, can you text applications?
Okay.
Links like that and QR codes. They don't want to go into some form fill that they can't complete on their phone. They're not getting out a PC to do an application. They want to do everything on their phone. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So even if so, for example, normally when I have somebody who asked or is inquiring, I send them to my website, and have them do a form fill there.
Right.
Even if the site is mobile friendly, you wouldn't recommend that?
As long as it's not too much. Remember, at the beginning of the relationship, you're just trying to capture their information. You can certainly have them do an application after you've had an initial conversation or something. Hey, let's
Okay.
connect. Shoot me your resume. You can upload it here or whatever. And then we're going to have a conversation. And if it makes sense, then I'm going to put them through an application kind of process. I want to respect their time just as much as they respect mine. They can do an application at any point, but but it's not going to be my self-directed first step. Like, go spend 25 minutes filling out this type fill form, and then maybe I'll speak to you. Well, no,
Right.
let's
Well,
have a 5-minute conversation first.
right. The form fill is just, name, phone number, email address, and then what attracted to them.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Attracted them
That's fine.
to
That's not an
the
application.
campaign
That's
professor.
right.
No,
I'm
no.
talking about like a traditional federally mandated application. So the
Gotcha.
Department of Labor governs what applications are, what purpose that they serve. And that's why it's so annoying that, it's not our fault that we have to get your resume and have you fill out the application. I understand that it's duplicate, but that's because of federal guidelines. An application is different than a resume submission or an online inquiry. The Department of Labor,
Okay.
necessarily won't audit those things and whatnot.
So what is the reasoning for the application from the federal level?
It is an official request of employment. So if you're looking at affirmative action or discrimination things, like, wow, it looks like you get a pretty even mix of candidates from with different racial backgrounds apply for you, but you sure only ever hire one
Right.
type, so what's going on here? Do we have, some discrimination issues? And so they'll look at the ratio of what you're hiring, for instance.
Yeah, these are things that like I never think about.
That's terrifying.
Because I'm just looking for someone who's got a smile and is going to follow instructions, and that's really why I've always just pointed them to the website, because if they can take
Right.
2 or 3 minutes out of their day and fill out the contact form, because they always want to text you. Oh, hey, I'll text you. But
Right.
when I feel like if I allow them to text me, like,
Right.
hey, this is so and so, right?
We have boundaries and we have processes and systems. And if you want to be a part of this program, you have to set that standard very early and make it feel like a funneled, like a process, not,
Right. Or like a professionalized business. Like, this isn't your, the neighbor kid coming over and you're like,
Right.
oh, hey,
We're not chit-chatting.
But correct. But I've always felt like if they just text me their name and now I have their number automatically from that text message, like, they're putting it on me to communicate.
Right.
But if you're a job seeker and you
Right.
want the job, at least make a little bit of effort. You're on
Yeah.
the website, look around there a little bit, maybe click the Instagram link,
Yeah.
do something like that, and
Right.
then fill out the form. So
Yeah.
if they don't do any of that, then I know that they weren't really serious about
Right.
it. Or even better, they saw it, and seeing the level of professionalism on the website and through
Right.
all of these different categories, it scared them away, and now
Right.
we prevented anybody getting their time wasted.
Yeah. Not having a job is a job, and there's work that goes into it, and there's just no way around that.
Right.
I apologize. I know it's frustrating as a job seeker to have to put in the same information over and over again, but that's the process.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said that word of mouth is typically the best form of recruiting. So I'm assuming that that's with like your inner circle, with the people that you communicate with, on a regular basis, whether it's from your church, your school, friends and family, your neighbors, people like that. What
Yeah.
are other areas that are like low cost solutions for recruiting?
Man.
That are maybe not as successful, the statistically, but can still prove beneficial.
Yeah, I've done really well partnering with our local Career Source program. They have two different programs. One is called OJT and one is called an internship program. My office manager that's with me now came in through the OJT program. She's someone that I knew. I had her apply through this program. So it's not just people that are, already instilled in the program that you can hire. You can direct candidates to go through this process. And she had worked for city government for a really long time in her career, and she's a city commissioner who owns her own business. And so, but she really wanted some formalized training and wanted to get out of the government sector and work in the private sector. And she thought working for someone else would help her build her business well. Anyway, we've known each other since high school. And so the Career Source program pays 50% of her salary on my behalf for 6 months.
Wow.
So I'm training her, I'm pouring into her, and every week I submit her time card and a form that I have to sign saying what she did and stuff like that. And the next week I get a check for half of her salary. And so that's amazing. So if you're a new business owner that can't quite make that first hire, or you're on that hump, that can really help. The internship program, I have a recruiter here working for me. She came out of the financials industry. She wants to get out of banking, out of mortgages, and she was interested in recruitment. So they actually introduced me to her. And for 3 months, they have paid 100% of her salary on my behalf. And I've been teaching her recruitment and training, and she's doing a great job. And because she's a full professional, she's worked in this high level attention to detail, customers facing atmosphere. She makes a wonderful recruiter. It's been amazing. So for 3 months, I've not had to pay a single dime. And I've been pouring a lot into her in training. So by the time she is onboarded permanently with our company, she's just up and running and making me money. So that's one way right there, is through a Career Source program. Those are federal dollars that come down from our government. A lot of it's CARES Act money right now.
So is that with both of these individuals in your case, or just in general, is the goal to have them onboarded at the end of these stints, or
that is typically the goal, but it's not required.
Okay.
They can't say, well, you work them and then you have to hire them. At the end you can go, oh, well, we tried, but just not the one, and everything. For the internship program, they actually are running the person through a staffing company. The local staffing company that won the contract with Career Source, that's how the whole funnel works. It's crazy. So she's technically works for a staffing company. And then the staffing company is reimbursed by Career Source for running all the payroll and stuff. So lots of money flowing around.
Because I could
something
definitely
people don't
see.
think of.
No, for sure. I could definitely see, being a small micro business like what I am. My situation. It's just me right now on the tools every day and wearing all these different hats.
Right.
But being able to use a tool like that when I go to hire, well, at least for the OJT, for the on-the-job training, hiring somebody in like an overhead position, whether it's like a project manager or someone like that, that would definitely need more time to train than just, a standard apprentice painter before they're on their own. And it's not necessarily a production position. It's more that overhead. And then the other thing with the internship, I think it just spurred on is if my model is set up well enough, bringing someone on who wants to open their own small business as a tradesman, then I can bring them on and teach them how to paint, or at least the business side, and then they can take that information and bring it on to their own company, or hopefully we wow them enough that they wind up staying on long term. I mean, honestly, that'd probably be the ultimate goal. Everybody wins. But that'd be that's a pretty good thing. I didn't think of that. Now, you mentioned Career Source. I'm very familiar with Career Source here in Central Florida. Is Career Source throughout the nation, or is that just a Florida?
Some other states do have it, so it's not Florida only. But you can also just check your federal funding, your federal funding areas and where that money is funneling to. You can look up CARES Act, economic development, stimulus money, things like that. And that money usually trickles down somewhere, state by state. So for us, it's our Career Source.
No, that's awesome.
Orange County has some huge grants right now. I've been landing contracts with the grant recipients to manage the reporting requirements of the grants, pretty heavy reporting requirements, and it's kind of a administrative burden. So,
Right.
and it scares a lot of business owners because they're like, it's a lot. So that's a service that we provide, and it's a lot.
Oh.
It's a lot, millions and millions of dollars in Orange County, Florida.
Yeah, because this isn't just free money that they're throwing out,
Right.
and that there's not an expectation. Like the expectation is that you're going to bring someone on and that you're going to do
Correct.
your due diligence.
Yeah, they got to make sure
that
it's not abuse,
learning
but
is skill,
sometimes,
right? Correct.
yeah. So
Yeah, and the compliance issue, just again back to with employee handbooks and the application process that we've touched on.
Yeah.
Compliance is definitely a big thing
Yeah.
when it comes to this. No, that's all good information. So we talked about like ways to find employees and how employees are kind of how they're looking. I mean, we could probably spend an hour and a half just talking about, like what type of work people are looking for, and what's really popular. It seems like everybody wants to be an influencer on social media and
Yeah.
just be a YouTube star. Like that's,
Right.
but like that's still just a small segment of the U.S. population right now that really truly want to do those things and have the grit to pursue those things.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we used to say we wanted to be astronauts when we grew up, and we knew the likeliness of that was probably slim to none. But, now they're TikTok stars. So, and
Yeah.
again, like you said, that's the 0.01% that ever really make any significant money off of it. It's because
I think less than 1% of college athletes wind up going into professional sports and become multimillionaires.
Right.
But like a great thing, and people should be shouting this from the rooftop, is I think it's like 85% of plumbers are millionaires or something like that. Like it's some crazy
I'll
number.
have to tell my
like
husband that.
Yeah, but it's like at some point, that there's a greater likelihood because it is in demand. There is the skills
100%.
gap, and there is this resurgence of professionalism in the trades, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it started off with the mechanical services, with plumbing, HVAC, electrical.
Electrician.
It's fed into garage doors,
Robotics,
it's fed in-
PLC programming. I mean,
Yeah.
the manufacturing industry is highly robotic at this point, and those guys are making big money. PLC programmers, industrial electricians make insane money. So
Yeah.
I talk a lot about that when I go to the high school. So one thing I always encourage, especially small business owners and tradesmen, do is look at your local high school programs and see what kind of specific programs that we have. So if you're a restaurant, Seminole High School has an amazing culinary program. You should know the teacher that is teaching that program, and once a year, twice a year, take an hour and go into that classroom and talk to those kids about your restaurant, or better yet, do a field trip to your restaurant and show them how a restaurant is done. Let them walk in. They will call you afterwards. Just the other day, I was on Seminole High School campus, and this kid comes running up to me. He's like, "Hey, did you come and teach at Markham Woods Middle School and talk about jobs?" And I was like, "Yeah." Little booger remembered me, like holy moly, and he saw me
awesome.
again. So it's like, call me when you're 18. He's my future employee. So and other high schools have other programs, like an entrepreneurship program at Lake Howell that they have. Seminole High also has Sci-High, which is very business and entrepreneurship driven. The tech school that we have here in town in Sanford, Crooms Academy, puts out some amazing techie kids that are so good at marketing and website design and stuff like that. So you should know those teachers and go into those classrooms and teach those kids every single year, because that's your funnel. That's your employment base at the end of the day. So get them while they're young, capture their interest, show them your success. They want to see that stuff. Whether you're a woman in business and little girls are dreaming about that, or whether these little boys need a good male role model that's just making an honest living by busting his knuckles every now and again.
Yeah. Where are you still seeing a large push towards college when it comes to that, or is there?
Well, as long as college is a profit center, there will always be people in powerful positions that makes college seem important.
Right.
I am very pro trades myself. Of course, there's still pressures in certain areas, right? Because for some things, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, of course, you have
Sure.
to go to college. But if you want to be a millionaire, college isn't necessary. So I think there's a wider acceptance and respect for the trades, but I don't see the push lightening at all. But what I can say is the generation now that is going into college, you got to remember, right? So their parents are in their 40s, maybe early 50s. And so think of what generation that was. And then if they're not the oldest sibling in the house, they've seen some siblings go and get some massive debt, and they're sitting there in $75,000-$100,000 of college debt,
Right.
and they're going, not me. I'm not doing that. And a
Wow.
lot of them are pushing towards entrepreneurship. It's an entrepreneurship of many things, not just the trades, but they don't want to be
Right.
stuck to the man. They want to be in charge of their time. They don't care about the money anymore. It's about the time and the freedom that they want.
So what we're talking about what the job seekers are looking for, what this next generation's looking for. How what things should an employer, let's say for example like me, what should I be doing in order to attract these people? Because I think a lot of
Yeah.
times the conversation is had, and you hear, oh, there's no good people out there, there's no good people out there.
Yeah.
But shouldn't the people who saying that is like, I'm not a good employer, I'm not a good enough
Right.
employer, right? Like there's no good
Right. They
employers
can't answer the
out there,
question why they should be
especially in the
chosen.
trades. Correct. Like, oh, like because it's a privilege to come work for me, and you're gonna make the same, like $1 more an
Right.
hour than you would,
Right.
at McDonald's or something like that. Like it, like this is a trade. Like how do we demonstrate more what this is more than just a check, right? Because if
Yeah.
it's just about getting a check, and then that's not.
Then you're
nothing
monetized,
to it.
and that's not
Yeah.
competitive. Monetized things
Yeah.
aren't competitive
Yeah.
like that. So I think knowing what your why is. I mean, Simon Sinek has such a good TED Talks on knowing what your why is and communicating that to your employees and to your brand. And as a part of your brand, talking about how much you love and appreciate your employees. Stop just talking about your customers all the time. We appreciate our customers. Our customers are loyal. Our customers are happy. Show me your employee review. Show me your 360 analysis. So show me your accountability as a leader. Show me how you're toeing the line for your employees every day and ensuring that they need what they need to perform as a whole person. So if you can't answer those questions, then you need to go back to the drawing board and ask yourself again, why am I in business, and do I want employees? Because they're
Yeah.
not tools, they're more than that, and you really need to do because you can do it other ways. You don't have to have employees to have a large business. You can lean into technology, you can lean into contractors, kind of relationships, and there's places in the markets for those kinds of things. But I mean, if today's kids want to have their own business, well, create a micro business entrepreneurship plan through employment with your company. Allow them, teach them how to build up a book of business, and then they can earn them their way out of it and take it with them down the road. And
Right.
let them go. Be the business that builds businesses through solid employment. Though it's golden handcuffs. If you own a painting business and it's just you, bring them in, train them up. Maybe they'll stay, maybe they won't. And then
Right.
they can take that and buy back that book of business from you. If you got a solid sales development plan and you're really good at recruiting the best people, then see what works for everybody. Because let me tell you,
Yeah.
there's enough houses and buildings for everyone's paint to go
Oh,
around. It spreads
for
thin.
sure. For
So,
sure. We've talked about that in the painting
yeah.
industry
Yeah.
for a
Have a
little bit
solid
now.
non-solicitation plan.
Yeah.
I really don't believe in non-competes that are very broad brushed, but don't touch my customers, my
Right.
existing customers. And so with solid contracts and things like that, you can protect your intellectual knowledge and stuff, or it can just be a part of your brand. Maybe you franchise it out, or maybe you have, licensing agreements and you I know a cleaning company in town. They've got a really fascinating model. They create micro business owners with their own cleaning companies, so they do all the business development and then sell them the little accounts, and then they pay
Okay.
commissions on the accounts that are sold by the umbrella company. And so
Wow.
they have a unit themselves, but then they're making micro units, and just they're really good at business development, because what they found was a lot of people in the house cleaning, or they're in business cleaning, not house cleaning, in the janitorial industry were really good at their jobs, but they were
Right.
really bad at business development. So
Correct.
that's the model that they created, and it's beautiful. Why can't you do that in the painting world?
No, that's a fantastic idea. I
And
mean,
a lot of their employees see the model, they watch it work, and then they buy their own book of business. So now you've just turned an employee that was making you money into a paying um, revenue stream for you that you no longer have to supervise and deal with as much.
correct, correct. Because I mean, there's two sides to that, right? There's you're training and educating them to go off on their own. So now you have that they're not as much of a profit center for you because they're not working directly for you, but
Right.
they're
But you're not
also
touching them.
not
Plug and play.
correct. But correct. There's very little liability on that aspect. But then the other thing too is, what if they go through the whole thing and realize, hey, going out on my own is not for me. Now
Right.
you've just
Earn them
initiated
back.
somebody into your culture. Exactly. you
Right.
you wind up earning them back, and they could be,
Right.
they just stay on with you long term,
Hmm.
because I think one of the biggest issues with the painting industry, specifically because it is so heavily segmented, is that the career path is typically apprentice, painter, business owner. Like, there's no steps in between. So
Right.
like, if that's the progression, and people, they want to see, like, hey, what is my career path, what are we working
Right.
towards? Oh,
Right.
hey, like, your career path is you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, and you're going to own
Yeah.
your own business and be pulling out your hair and complaining that there's no good people. Or
Right.
we can start thinking about these things long term,
Right.
and creating cultures, right? And creating a
Creating
culture to where,
employees
yeah,
creating employees that understand the whole business, not just this is my paycheck and these are my job duties. What if all your employees were sold out for profit margins, and not
yeah,
just, and they understood what the cost of materials was, and they understood what waste, how that impacted the bottom line of the company.
right.
They're just better employees if you're training them up in the business well.
It's pay for performance is the model that you're talking about.
100%.
But the only way that they can know how to win the game is they have to know the score in the game too, right?
Right.
And a
So you
lot
got
of
to show
people
them
are
the
afraid.
numbers.
Exactly. A lot of people are afraid to show their books, to show the numbers,
Right.
because, oh, if they see how much money I'm taking home, then they're going to want to leave. But what they don't understand, or what we're failing to communicate, is that we don't get to take all of that home. There's a little
Right.
man, and his name is Uncle Sam, and he
Right.
wants a big portion of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's other stuff that goes beyond it. You're charging $65 an hour, which is well well thought of as like the industry average for a
Mm-hmm.
painting contractor, and we're paying our
Mm-hmm.
guys $18 an hour. you
Oh,
know
look at all that money you're making in the middle.
yeah,
Auto
but
insurance, car note,
yep,
benefits. Yeah, it all comes out of
yeah,
that.
for sure, for sure. No, this is super cool. I think we've definitely just brains this was like a brain melt. This wasn't even an interview, of just like some great resources, talking about like word of mouth, finding a local in our area, it's called Career Source, but a local career development agency that is funded through the government to help support or help finance, essentially.
Economic development.
Yeah, economic development to help finance some of these first new hires as you're trying to grow and get those first hires. Because I've been finding that that's been the hardest part, and it's not even the number part. It's it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Do I sell
Yeah.
enough jobs to like book myself out, and then I hire somebody and then I
Scary.
shrink it, and like I don't want to have this yo-yo. Like, how do you get? It's like jumping on a moving treadmill. You got to time it right, otherwise you're going to fall on your face. And that's one of the things that I've been struggling with. But no, that was very good. Knowing what your why is, referencing Simon Sinek, which, yes, he does have some great TED Talks, and he's got a couple good books out there
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
And this was just a wealth of knowledge, and I think there are some great nuggets here. Dawn, so you're based here in Central Florida. Do you only work with Central Florida-based companies?
No, we work all over the nation, and I actually just came back from Honduras, where I was doing a speaking tour all through the country on recruitment and entrepreneurship, and spoke on something that's little known, called parentification, and the impact that has on the workforce. Because childhood trauma and neglect doesn't leave you when you clock into work, so a lot of that
Right.
stuff leads into the workplace, and so we kind of talked about that when I was in Honduras. So it was a lot of fun. So we work all over the nation.
Okay, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, can you give some of your contact information? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they have some questions about recruitment, the parentification that you were just speaking about, or want to talk to you about your some of the services that you offer? And please feel free to mention some of those services.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is simplythebest.com. That's my last name proper, SIP as in Peter, LEY, thebest.com. I do a lot more public speaking than I've ever done. I'm about to, tomorrow I'm speaking for Marriott, which is really exciting for a public
Oh,
speaker
wow.
to get that under their belt and earn the trust of Marriott is a really big deal. So I'm excited about that. I'm just talking to another company that's looking to fly me out to Denver, Colorado for a speaking engagement. So I'm really into that right now. I love taking stage, just being an inspiration to folks. I've had my own entrepreneurship journeys. I've had a colorful background, and I always have a good time on stage, and I really believe that it impacts change. We can give guidance on recruitment strategies. We can do compliance issues. We can assist in exit interviews. If you're having a really high turnover and you just don't know why people are leaving, we can conduct exit interviews and provide reporting back. We do investigations. It's probably one of my favorite things to do, sexual harassment
Okay.
investigations and
Right.
stuff like that. So just a
Right.
bunch of weird HR stuff. If there's humans, there's going to be issues.
Yeah, for sure. Because if it wasn't for humans, every company would
Yeah.
be perfect, right?
Right.
That's what I always say.
If it wasn't for the people, my job would be easy in human resources.
Exactly. Exactly. Just take out the human.
Right.
No, that's awesome. Dawn, you've been a wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate everything you share. We're gonna have to get you back on because you definitely brought up
Yeah.
some things. As I'm looking to, or as other business owners are looking to bring on their first hire or get back into compliance if
Yeah.
they've never been in compliance, definitely brought up some things that we need to look at, and also like thinking further down the line, talking about like fractional HR, what that looks like, and things like that. So you're more than welcome anytime on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a good day.